All right, chapter 7. Um, we're still doing a lot of stuff like we already learned in CPS 121 in Java, and we've been doing a lot of comparing with the C++ class. So today we're still in a topic that is similar to what you've done before, and that's the idea of arrays. But we're going to take a quick look at arrays. We're going to start to add some things in it that we didn't talk about in Java. And then we're going to jump to something called a vector. So the title of chapter 7 is actually arrays and vectors. And I have a little note right above the word arrays and right above the word vectors. When it comes to an array, it is static memory, meaning I have to pick the size, int scores size 10 and be done. I can't do anything more. I can't add, make sure I have enough memory or make sure I don't waste a lot of memory. I have to kind of pick a size that works really well. Excuse me one second. In the second part of this chapter, we're going to be talking about something called a vector. And a word that goes with vectors is dynamic, which means it'll change. And the way a vector works is if I need to add something to it, I just go grab a memory block. And if I undelete or take something out of that list, I get rid of that memory block. But again, for an array, we have a static size. It doesn't change. Now, going a little deeper into arrays than what you had done before, we have a declaration of an array. Int scores size 10, square brackets, all good. We know we use the subscript 0 to 9. When I declared an int, excuse me, and it is 4 bytes. So I know at each one of these memory locations, it's going to be 4 bytes. So when I get ready and declare int scores 10, I'm saying I need 4 times 10. I need 40 bytes of memory side by side that are available. Now, something that we haven't talked about before is this guy scores. If I just look at the name of the array, I can actually in C++ use that to hold the memory address. So just using the word scores is going to, we're starting to talk about memory a little bit. We did the reference variable the other day with the ampersand. And when we get into chapter 9, we're going to take a bigger look at working with memory addresses and storing data there, which really is a building block for something you'll do with data structures in the next class. So scores, the word scores actually holds the memory address, okay? When I say scores sub 0, the way to think of this now is I'm going to go to memory location scores and move over 0 times 4 bytes. So it sticks me right at this memory location. If I said scores sub 5, it would move over from the original memory location, 5 times 4, it would move over 20 bytes to get to that next location. So a little more breadth of what's going on with arrays. The name actually holds the address. Each one of these locations is 4 bytes. And it's sort of like going memory address 0 times 4 bytes, go to that spot. Knocking the rust off of a couple of things that we've talked about before, an implicit initialization. You've done that in code listing 7.3. You should have seen it before, but an example is right here where I'm assigning the values directly into the array so that it's already done inside of the program. You don't have to ask the user, please enter the number of days for the first month, for the second month. One, it's a waste of time. 2, you already know it, so we can actually hard code that into the program. And again, this is called implicit initialization, something that we had back in CPS 121 as well. Now, one of the things that Java does is allows us to do a partial initialization. And I have an example here, code listing 7.6. I declare an array of size 7, but I actually fill the first 4 locations. So I'm partially initializing the array. I put in the values 1 for number sub 0, 2 for number sub 1, 4 for number sub 3, and so on. Something that we didn't do before. I'm thinking now, hey, wouldn't this be good for Fibonacci sequence? Where if I was writing that program, I could put in the first 2 Fibonacci numbers and then let it generate after that. Okay, so that's an example of this partial initialization. All right, my next note I have, look over code listing 7.7. And this isn't one you had to type in. I should have made you type it in, but I didn't. So in this fella, let's see, anything new here? I have ILS stream, I have F stream. I'm going to create an array of size 10. I'm going to be inputting from a data file. And let's see, I have the data file 10 numbers.txt, which we could easily come up with. And I'm going to get ready and I say while count. Okay, so I have a logical operator here. I need both of these to be true. I'm keeping track of a variable that's going to go from 0 all the way up to 9 because my array size. And you notice over here, this is kind of a slick way that I can input right into the array. Input file stores it right in number sub 0 the first time, 0 the second time. So it's actually in. So this means keep going as long as this statement is true, meaning there's something in the input file, and if there is, store it right in the number sub counter. Okay? It's like, I have these little stickies. Sometimes I throw those in my books, and that might be a note worth making, that the program 7.7 is a way to input data from a file and store it right away into an array using a while statement. I had to have a body so I could increment my subscript inside of my square brackets. Questions? So far, so good. I had you type in a code listing 7.9. And when you go ahead, question.
Professor, in the earlier example, I have a question.
Yes.
Yeah, I actually I typed all the code listing 1 through 20 in a row, and then on the one that you explained recently, the numbers, when I open the text file, I'm not getting the output numbers as 49, 89. I'm getting nothing actually.
Okay. Did you create a text file called 10numbers.txt?
Yeah, I created a file. Yeah.
And you put a bunch of different numbers in.
Yeah, I had some couple of numbers. Yeah.
Okay. Make sure when you have this input file, you have the name here, here, and make sure you close it. This is the link to get it ready. This is us reading it in from input file. This is closing it. So all 3 of those names had to be the same.
When I create a text file, then where should I save that text file?
Make sure it's saved in the same folder that you saved the whole program.
Okay.
That may have been the problem. Yeah, you have to keep them together. Yeah, I think that sounds like that's what your problem may have been. Okay. All right, back in yeah, Ibrahim. Back in 121, we would work with arrays, and all of a sudden, if I had an array of size 3, the subscripts I could work with were 0, 1, and 2. And if I tried to put the subscript 3 in, I would get an error message. Does anybody remember what that error message was?
Is it index out of bounds?
Yeah, it was an exception file index out of bounds. Well, interesting enough, in C++, we don't have an index out of bounds error. So if you tried to go and keep going, oh boy, you know, I don't know if it's going to store all the values or not. What you might get is junk, but again, it didn't crash, but the numbers you get out hopefully are what you put in. And, you know, we can see some problems going on here where after I got to the first 5, I keep adding more and we just never know what's going to happen. So unlike Java, you can go index out of bounds, but you just need to be really careful. Okay, so I'm taking a look at code listing 710 right now. It's something for you folks if you want. There are folks who like shortcuts. Sometimes I teach it, sometimes I don't, but I grade AP test once a year, and I notice a lot of students on the AP test use it. So I'm going to take a look at what's going here. Again, this is called range based for my for loop. Okay, so I declare an array. It's of size 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. It's of size 5. And what you see is a way to shortcut to be able to run through all those values. So I have a loop for int val colon numbers. Now remember, this is my array name. Okay, what's happening here is a value from the array is being read into val, and then I can do something with it. Then I go back up. The next value in the array is being read into val. So it's a shortcut instead of me saying for 0 to less than 5 and plus plus and all of that. I can do this shortcut of what's called a range base. It's in there. It's an optional thing. You don't have to use it, but I know some of you like shortcuts, and that would be a shortcut worth tucking away. Okay, and again, I have an example down here below. All right, any questions up to that point?
That's not compatible with the version of C++ we're using.
It should be. Did you try it and it didn't work?
Yeah, I did not.
Okay.
Yeah,
I sent you a text last night.
So here's what I'd like you to test. You see inside of here where it says int val? Declare int val out before the for loop. And then just have val colon numbers. Because
what was happening was in JGrasp it defaults to C++ 98, and this isn't a feature in C++ 98,
Okay.
and you have to set it to a higher version.
I understood. Got it.
That's what I found. The settings tucked away somewhere, really hard to find.
Right. But I do know for a lot of versions of dev C++, if you try to go for parentheses, int counter equals 0, counter is less than something, counter plus plus, it doesn't like the int inside of the for loop. So you might want to try to declare int val here, then just have val inside of the for loop. That might work for some of you. Okay, any questions?
Can you go back to reading from a file?
Yeah. That was code listing 7.7.
Right.
Okay.
So
Yes.
yeah, I had the same issue that was brought up earlier.
Okay.
And what I did was I had to point the full path to the file. You know what?
Okay. Right.
You know what?
right
Yeah,
here. Yeah.
right.
So if you don't have it in the same folder, it doesn't know where it is. And you can then put the path in and do the C colon wherever you have it stored. Problem is, I get a lot of those people submit programs with files in, and then I have to go back and clean it up because I have it in the same folder so that I can make it run. You know, it's yours from, I found this page too, and it does work. Okay, good. But yeah, that should, if you have to put the whole address in there, that's fine. If you put it in the same folder, it should work fine just doing it this way.
Okay.
Okay, I should have actually had a fourth line highlighted here. Did it input file stream? IF stream input file. So that we know it's now down here, input file. It's over here, input file, and it's here, input file. So we have to declare it, we have to link it, we use it, and we close it. Any other questions? Good questions today, folks.
Yeah. Are vectors, when you pass them into a function, are they passed by reference or value?
Should be reference.
Yeah, because when I was working with it on my assignment, it seemed to be passing by value because I tried like changing stuff in it, and
You're
it
already
wouldn't like
doing the-
propagate to the vector outside that function. It would only apply in the function somehow.
Okay.
But when I added like the and sign, it started working somehow. Even though it should be passing by reference anyway. I don't know.
Well, it's not actually a memory address like an array name. So you have to do a little bit more.
Okay.
Yep. All right. And you're ahead of us with vectors. We're not even there yet, but that's okay to be ahead. What I'm going to do today is put you in groups. I want you to write this program. Chips and Salsa, write a program that we use to keep track of 5 different types of salsa. The salsas are mild, medium, hot, and zesty. Programs should use 2 parallel arrays. So when I keep, well, let's get back to that in a minute. The first array is an array of strings that holds the 5 salsa names. The second one holds the number of jars sold during the last month. Okay, starting with what a parallel array is. The first item in the string array with names, the first item is going to be the first salsa, which is mild. So in location 0, we have mild. In my other array, the location 0 is going to be how many milds were sold. Location 1 is medium. In my other array, I'm going to hold the number of mediums that were sold and so on. So these are parallel because this is an array of strings. The other one is an array of numbers, but the locations match up. Okay. Now, what do we have? The salsa name should be stored using an initialization list. That means do it implicitly. Put that in the program so we don't have to type that in each time. Okay. Once the salsa data has been entered, I want you to display the total sales, each salsa type, the total sales, the number of the highest and the number of the lowest. Don't worry about the input validation. Questions?